Hey there, amazing friends. I warmly invite you to join me on this exciting journey by subscribing to my channel, liking, commenting, and sharing my videos. Every like, comment, and share brings us closer together and fuels my passion to create more great content. Your support truly makes all the difference. Thank you for being the heart of this community. In the depths of the Bermuda Triangle, the real story behind disappearing ships. In the Isher stretch of the North Atlantic, there is a swath of ocean known by sailors, travelers, and conspiracy theorists the world over. The Bermuda Triangle, encompassing roughly the area between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. This legendary triangle has spawned countless tales of vanishing vessels, mysterious radio silences, and desperate last messages crackling over static before oblivion. For decades, public fascination with this region has been fueled by unexplained disappearances of planes, yachts, entire cargo freighters, and more. Scholars attempt rational explanations: storms, rogue waves, navigation errors. But a swirl of conspiracies and whispered secrets endure, suggesting that something deeper, more sinister, or more extraordinary lurks beneath its waves. The following account seeks to shine a light on the swirling theories, the hidden government files, the puzzling evidence, and the voices of those who claim to have glimpsed the truth in the depths of the Bermuda Triangle. Is it a nexus of strange cosmic forces, an interdimensional gateway, or a hotbed of clandestine experiments? The official stance remains that there is no single dark force behind these vanishings. And yet, the ocean floor may tell a different story, if only we dare to listen. 1. Origins of a legend. While maritime mysteries around that region date back centuries, some even point to Columbus' recorded sightings of strange lights. The Bermuda Triangle as a modern phenomenon caught public attention in the mid-20th century. Newspaper headlines spoke of the lost squadron of 5 U.S. Navy torpedo bombers, Flight 19, vanishing without a trace in 1945, swiftly followed by rescue planes that also disappeared. Then came the merchant vessels, SS Sandra, Carol A. Deering, Marine Sulphur Queen. All left ports or planned routes, only to seemingly vanish from the face of the earth. Search planes found no wreckage, no survivors. Hence was born the era of speculation. Some claimed magnetic anomalies, scrambled compasses, driving ships astray. Others told rumors of sea monsters, watery vortexes, or cunning pirates. Over time, the legend crystallized. The Bermuda Triangle devoured ships and planes with a near supernatural hunger. Some insisted it was a government hoax, others that a dimension warp or time distortion existed in that ocean corridor. No official maritime chart designates a Bermuda Triangle boundary, nor do maritime agencies list it as more dangerous than other heavily trafficked seas. And yet, the swirl of conspiracies persists. Why do these vanishings remain so compelling? 2. Gathering of inquiries and obsession. Enter Dr. Alicia Maldonado, an oceanographer with a penchant for fringe mysteries. Dr. Maldonado's career began in esteemed circles, mapping currents, analyzing ecosystem changes, but her curiosity about anomalies led her to investigate places off typical academic radars. Having read countless accounts of Bermuda Triangle incidents, she sensed a pattern that might reveal hidden truths about oceanic phenomena or possibly unacknowledged technology. She assembled a small, intrepid team. Leonard Len Bishop, a retired naval officer who once participated in search and rescue missions around the Caribbean. He possessed a wealth of experience with the ocean's unpredictable moods and had quietly witnessed unexplainable events he seldom shared. Monique Desjardins, a cryptozoologist enthralled by cryptic marine species and rumored ancient creatures. She believed the ocean's depths might hide forms that occasionally intersect with shipping lanes. Tarek Sagan, a conspiracy researcher convinced that top-secret experiments or advanced submarine bases near the Bahamas could be the cause. He toted a stack of declassified documents hinting at Cold War-era technology. Their plan: charter a research vessel, the Endeavour's Light, and sail directly through the most storied quadrant of the Bermuda Triangle. They deploy drones, conduct sensor sweeps, gather water column data, and record any anomalies. It was both a scientific expedition and a quest to unravel conspiracies. The question was whether the triangle would show them something truly extraordinary, or merely the same storms and swells that plagued any region of ocean. 3. A storm of conspiracies. Before setting sail, Dr. Maldonado's team found themselves deluged with contradictory theories from every corner of the internet. Atlantis Tech. Some claim that the sunken city of Atlantis lay beneath the Bermuda Triangle, powered by crystal energies that occasionally disrupted modern electronics, leading ships astray. Proponents pointed to unusual magnetic readings or alleged pyramids discovered on the seafloor. Alien Harvest. Another faction insisted that UFOs or USOs, unidentified submersible objects, patrolled the waters, abducting vessels for unknown experimentation. Supposed eyewitnesses recounted greenish lights rising from the waves. Military tests. The next set believed the vanishings were orchestrated or at least covered up by governments testing advanced submarine warfare devices or warp drive prototypes. Some pointed to suspicious installations in Andros Island's AUTEC, Atlantic Undersea Test and Evaluation Center, labeling it the Atlantic's Area 51. Magnetic vortex. On the more science-like side, a swirl of claims proposed that the Earth's geomagnetic lines converge here, forming a vortex that disrupts compasses, GPS signals, perhaps even time itself. Confronting this whirlpool of theories, Dr. Maldonado tried to keep her approach rigorous. If they discovered new phenomena, magnitudes of swirling currents, unexpected electromagnetic pulses, she'd measure them properly. She refused to discount the human factor, shipping errors, sudden storms, structural failings in older vessels. Yet she also recognized that certain vanishings defied simple logic. 4. Setting sail into myth in early spring, with the hurricane season still months away, the Endeavour's Light departed from a Florida marina, bristling with specialized gear. The crew, Dr. Maldonado's 4-person corps, plus a handful of mariners experienced in deep-sea expeditions. The mood was both excited and tense. All aboard realized the Bermuda Triangle's ominous reputation, but few expected genuine peril until the first day offered a taste of strangeness. While crossing the boundary of the so-called triangle around midday, the ship's compasses flickered. For nearly 15 minutes, headings spun unpredictably. Then they abruptly stabilized. The crew initially blamed it on electronics malfunction, but the older mechanical compass also wavered, which was harder to dismiss. Tapping digital instruments, Sagan mumbled that something might be interfering from below or overhead. The sea appeared calm, gentle swells, a light breeze. No sign of storms or swirling currents. Yet a faint static crackle hummed on the shortwave radio, muffling attempts to contact the Florida Coast Guard. Was it an atmospheric quirk or the triangle's rumored electromagnetic weirdness? The day ended quietly, with normal star-studded skies overhead. At dinner, they shared theories. Monique recounted old stories of the ghost ship Ellen Austin, found adrift in these waters. Crews that boarded her to salvage were never seen again. Len retorted that plenty of ships found adrift have logical reasons, from mutiny to storms, but the vanishings, well, he just shook his head. Dr. Maldonado listened, watching the horizon. She had felt an unspoken hush creeping in, as if the ocean awaited a moment to reveal something. 5. A rendezvous with the unknown. On the second day, they advanced deeper into the triangle. scanning for anomalies. Suddenly, near dawn, an alert beeped. The side-scan sonar detected a massive metallic shape resting on the seabed about 600 meters down, possibly a large sunken ship. Dr. Maldonado decided to send down a remotely operated vehicle, ROV, to investigate. The team watched intently as the ROV's cameras descended, revealing a ghostly hull covered in marine growth. To their surprise, the wreck appeared relatively intact, bearing a hull shape reminiscent of a mid-20th century cargo vessel. Painted letters faintly read SS Stronghold. Cross-checking maritime records, Tarek discovered it vanished in 1962 with all 38 crew, no distress signal. Officially, storms were blamed. Yet, no salvage had ever located the wreck. Now here it sat, discovered by chance in the triangle's depths. As the ROV maneuvered around the deck, they glimpsed twisted metal, rotted crates, no sign of survivors. Then the ROV's camera feed flickered, random static. The submersible's lights dimmed. A voice crackled in their headphones, a weird interference that almost sounded like distant chatter. The entire feed cut out for a moment. Dr. Maldonado struggled with controls. Moments later, the ROV system stabilized, but the sense of intrusion lingered. Was it just a software glitch or something emanating from the wreck or the environment? They retrieved the ROV. A hush fell over them. This was a tangible piece of the triangle's puzzle, one more vanished ship found in watery silence. They pressed on 6. Night of the Glow that evening, anchored near the wreck site, the Endeavor's light was bathed in moonlight. The sea remained calm, almost unnaturally so. Around midnight, a faint luminescence shimmered across the water's surface, not quite bioluminescent plankton. It formed a soft, glowing band around the vessel. The crew gathered at the deck rails. Monique exclaimed, "It was like seeing the sea lit from below, an eerie aquamarine glow." Within minutes, instruments on the bridge started acting erratically. The radar showed phantom echoes, and the depth sounder beeped nonsense. The glow pulsed in rhythmic waves. Then the ship's engines, though idling, stuttered. The deck lights flickered. Tension soared as if an unseen force enveloped them. Dr. Maldonado radioed a status check. Static answered. Len, worried about sabotage, checked mechanical systems. He found nothing physically wrong. The phenomenon must be external. They collectively stood, transfixed, as the glow around the hull intensified. Muffled thumps sounded from below deck, as though something tapped the hull. For a fleeting moment, they believed they saw shapes in the luminous water, large shadows drifting just beneath the surface. Or was it illusions cast by the glow? Then, as swiftly as it began, the luminescence dulled. Systems returned to normal. The ocean darkened, though the moon still shone. The radio crackle subsided. The entire event lasted perhaps 10 minutes, but it left the crew shaken. Some wanted to weigh anchor and flee. Others insisted they must gather data. Dr. Maldonado maintained a steady presence, though inside she felt rattled. Was this a natural phenomenon or a sign of something orchestrated below? 7. The unofficial files. The next day, Tarek revealed some newly gleaned intelligence. He had rummaged through digital archives, discovering partial references to a Cold War-era naval facility in the region. The classified memos hinted at Project Bathysphere, an attempt to harness or monitor peculiar energy surges in the Atlantic. Could those surges relate to what they just experienced? One memo mentioned a deep node rumored to exist on the seabed, possibly an ancient structure or artifact that emitted electromagnetic pulses. Some believed it was Atlantean. Others, advanced submarine cables or a secret generator. The memos were inconclusive but suggested the Navy actively studied the region decades ago, correlating it with unexplained phenomena. Then the project vanished from official records. This was the bread and butter of conspiracy lore, but the Endeavor's light crew now had reason to suspect something tangible. They decided to investigate further. Dr. Maldonado plotted a course near coordinates gleaned from the old memo about 30 nautical miles from their current location. If there was a deep node, maybe it explained the luminous event, the power disruptions, and the vanishings of ships entrapped by bizarre energies. 8. Beneath the waves approaching the target zone, the crew braced for more oddities. The sea was unnervingly placid, as if brimming with latent power. On the third morning, they deployed the ROV again, scanning the seafloor. Depths here reached nearly 1,200 meters, steep drop-offs forming deep trenches. Around midday, the sonar pinged something, a massive structure or formation rising from the ocean bed. The shape was too regular to be a mere undersea mountain. The ROV descended, cameras capturing a labyrinth of ridges and geometric patterns. Could it be volcanic rock with symmetrical fracturing? Possibly, but the angles seemed deliberate, forming half-collapsed corridors or walls. The entire team stared in awe. A city-like complex. Emboldened by curiosity, they guided the ROV deeper into a chasm, scanning stone columns festooned with coral. In a clearing, they found a rectangular altar structure, half buried in silt. Strange markings adorned its sides, spirals, glyphs reminiscent of oceanic cultures, maybe reminiscent of Atlantean myths. Dr. Maldonado's heart pounded. The camera feed displayed carvings that seemed impossibly ancient. This could be some lost civilization's ruins, hidden in the Bermuda Triangle's depths. The ROV sensors then spiked. Unusual electromagnetic readings spiked around that altar. The feed crackled again, reminiscent of the prior disruptions near the wreck. Then a rising beep. The ROV was losing power. The thrusters sputtered. Helpless, they watched the camera tilt, showing a swirl of silt as it settled onto the altar's surface. Another wave of interference cut the feed. The crew scrambled to retrieve the ROV. Tension soared as the winch reeled up the cable. Finally, the submersible surfaced, partially operational. The camera lens was cracked, electronics scrambled. The device had recorded partial data, showing intense bursts of energy near that ruin. Some force had nearly fried its circuits. 9. Echoes of the past stunned by these findings, the crew hypothesized that a hidden structure, a remnant of a lost civilization or advanced technology, could generate electromagnetic anomalies that might explain the vanishings. Ships encountering strong electromagnetic pulses could lose navigation and sink. Planes might lose instrumentation, crash, or vanish. Meanwhile, the swirling luminescence they saw could be a surface manifestation of that energy interacting with the ocean currents or microorganisms. Or perhaps something more. Len quietly confided a memory. Years earlier, on a Navy mission, he glimpsed odd readings in this region. He suspected superiors suppressed the data. Did the Navy fear how the public would react to knowledge of a massive ruin under the Bermuda Triangle? A ruin possibly connected to advanced ancient technology? Monique believed a link existed between these ruins and old legends of Atlanteans or an advanced seafaring culture. The glyphs are no mere random doodles, she insisted. We're glimpsing the last echo of a civilization that harnessed energies beyond our modern scope. But how did that tie to modern conspiracies? Tarek believed certain governments might have tried to tap or replicate these energies. Possibly hush-hush experiments triggered expansions of the anomaly, causing more vanishings. After all, the triangle phenomenon soared in public consciousness post-World War II, a time of frantic military research. 10. Confrontation with the sea intent on further exploration. The crew prepared to dive using a manned submersible borrowed from a philanthropic oceanic institute. The submersible's pilot, a friend of Dr. Maldonado, flew in for the mission, Chris Hart, an experienced deep-sea explorer. This would be a high-risk operation, given the electromagnetic fiascos. But they wanted direct observation. They launched the submersible at dawn. Dr. Maldonado and Chris descended, while the others monitored from the surface. Tense radio chatter accompanied them into the gloom. Down they went, passing 800 meters, 900. The water turned midnight blue. The sub's lights sliced through darkness, revealing drifting plankton. Occasional fish darted by in silver flashes. Closing in on the ruined complex, the sub's instruments flickered, but Chris kept a steady hand. They glimpsed the rectangular altar again, half in shadow. Pillars loomed behind. The sub carefully maneuvered around the perimeter. Suddenly, a swirl of silt rose ahead, like something emerged from behind a collapsed arch. The sub's floodlights illuminated a massive shape sliding across the ocean floor. Perhaps a giant ray or deep-sea creature, disturbed by their intrusion. The cameras strained to focus. Then a second shape glided into view, and the pilot gasped. These looked like large, elongated forms with ridged backs, not typical fish. Monique on the surface watched the feed, exclaiming in near delight that they might be unknown creatures. The creatures lingered around the altar, emanating faint bioluminescent patterns along their flanks. The sub-sensors beeped as electromagnetic anomalies spiked again. The swirl of silt parted to reveal the ancient altar shining with a soft glow. The sub's lights flickered. Dr. Maldonado struggled to keep communication stable. She had the distinct feeling that the creatures were aware of them, investigating them. In that moment, the altar's surface began to pulse with a muted radiance, like an awakened mechanism. A low hum resonated through the water. The sub's control panels glitched. Chris fought to maintain stability, fear in his eyes. Dr. Maldonado's voice crackled over the surface link, describing the pulsations. The watchers on the ship saw their telemetry spike wildly. Then, to everyone's alarm, a surge of energy hammered the submersible. Lights flickered to black. The feed from the sub died. Pandemonium erupted aboard the Endeavor's light. For nearly half a minute, there was only static. At last, the subsystems rebooted, spitting out partial data. Dr. Maldonado's voice broke in, breathless. "We're okay," descended another 100 meters before the thrusters responded. Something forcibly pulled or pushed us downward. "We see an opening within the structure. We're trying to ascend." The watchers listened in rapt horror as she explained the sub was pinned in a swirling current near a sunken corridor. Using emergency thrusters, Chris managed to break free. The sub rose, battered but intact. On the way up, they caught a fleeting glimpse of that swirling luminescent patch again, as if the altar's force was receding. The monstrous sea creatures had scattered, or so it seemed. Dr. Maldonado suspected they might have triggered some defensive or reactive mechanism from the ancient ruin. When the sub broke the surface, the team erupted in relief. Aboard the deck, Dr. Maldonado and Chris recounted their hair-raising experience. They surmised that the vanishings might be linked to episodes when the ruin activated, unleashing an electromagnetic field strong enough to incapacitate ships or planes. The reason behind the cycles remained unknown. Could it be an automated system from a lost civilization, reawakening sporadically? 11. Governmental intervention. No sooner had the sub returned than a distant vessel appeared on the horizon, gray, unmarked, suspiciously official in bearing. The next morning, a helicopter circled overhead. Soon, men in crisp uniforms boarded the Endeavor's light, brandishing vague official credentials. They politely but firmly demanded copies of all data, recordings, and samples. The crew bristled, but had little choice. The men cited maritime security laws. Under watchful gazes, Dr. Maldonado and her companions surrendered certain files, but they covertly concealed the most critical ROV footage and partial notes from the sub. The men took the sub's black box data, scribbling notes in silent efficiency. They offered no explanation or courtesy, only stern stares. Then, as quickly as they arrived, they left, warning the crew to avoid further risk in these waters. This sealed the notion that certain authorities were aware of the ruins. Possibly for decades, they had studied or quarantined the area, ensuring no uncontrollable leaks of knowledge. The Bermuda Triangle's mystique might be partly cultivated to keep people away. 12. Return to port and the unanswered truth. In the following days, the Endeavor's light weighed anchor, heading back to Florida. Their supply lines were running thin, morale was strained by close calls, and a sense prevailed that more attempts to linger would invite deeper trouble. On the final night at sea, a lonely hush fell on the deck. Each member of the expedition felt a swirl of conflicting emotions: wonder at the glimpses of hidden marvels, frustration at official clampdowns, fear at the phenomenon's raw power. They arrived at the marina to find a mild media presence, but the watchers had likely been dissuaded by official denial. Dr. Maldonado decided to keep quiet publicly, at least for now. She and her team parted ways, each returning to separate corners of the globe with hidden data, incomplete but enough to confirm some extraordinary presence lurked in the Bermuda Triangle. Len parted with a handshake, confiding that he felt a measure of closure, his old hunches about the region's uncanny energies proven valid. Monique parted with swirling excitement about cataloging new sea creatures in a future monograph, albeit uncertain how to present them without official retribution. Tarek, less subdued, swore to keep digging into archives, convinced that the watery ruins might be just one node of a vast global network of anomalies. And Dr. Maldonado typed up a confidential scientific paper for her personal library. She described the ruins' layout, the altar, the pulses, the energy surges, though lacking definitive proof beyond samples and video snips. One day, she might release it to the world, should the climate of secrecy ever shift. 13. A legacy of mystery. Though no final pronouncement emerged that summer, the legend of the Bermuda Triangle endured. Ships continued crossing the region daily, mostly unscathed. But every so often, a distress call echoed across open channels, a pilot losing instruments, a cargo vessel failing to arrive. The sums never soared beyond usual maritime misfortunes, leading official skeptics to dismiss any special hazards. Yet for those who glimpsed the swirling glow, the intangible electromagnetic pulses, the half-buried ruin exuding archaic power, there was no simple forgetting. Over decades, the conspiracy theories found new angles, leaked references to ancient Atlantean engines, declassified memos about the Triangle anomaly, the hush-hush presence of advanced submarines patrolling the area. Meanwhile, official sources maintain there's nothing mystical about the region. Thus, the real story behind disappearing ships in the Bermuda Triangle remains half buried in the depths, caught between the hush of the ocean floor and the cloak of official secrecy. The deeper one dives, the more fragments appear, partial truths, ephemeral sightings, watery corridors lined with relics from the past. The vanishings are real, their cause a mix of oceanic perils, cosmic strangeness, and possibly technology beyond our current understanding. Epilogue. Dr. Maldonado eventually published a carefully worded article in a scientific journal, omitting references to giant ancient altars or bizarre sea creatures. She emphasized unusual electromagnetic phenomena, urging further oceanic study in that region. The paper quietly sparked interest among a new generation of oceanographers. Perhaps one day, another expedition, armed with better gear and freer from hush-hush meddling, will map those underwater ruins in detail. Perhaps they'll confirm or dispel the notion of an advanced civilization's leftover technology. But until that day, the Bermuda Triangle's mystique stands unbroken. Ships will keep transiting, some possibly meeting fates overshadowed by storms, mechanical failures, or something else. The conspiracies swirl in ports and pubs, travelers exchange wide-eyed yarns, and the Atlantic waves surge against the hidden labyrinth. In the starlit nights above those waters, echoes of lost transmissions might still drift, haunting calls from vanished crews. The ocean keeps its secrets, well guarded by watery silence. And so, the real story of the Bermuda Triangle's disappearing ships remains a riddle, one with roots in ancient ruins, ephemeral orbs of energy, and watchers in the shadows ensuring the greatest mysteries stay in the depths.